Hi, everyone. My name is Jenna Brown, and I am a senior strategic communication major at TCU. And for one of our assignments or one of my classes is to make a podcast, and it can literally be about anything. And so I decided today that I'm going to be talking about the importance of traveling and how it's played a huge aspect in my life, and how I currently have a goal of trying to hit 30 countries, like visit 30 countries by the time I turn 30. And I did the same thing by the time I turned 20. And I successfully did that. And now I'm going to be attempting to do that every 10-year milestone. Like, hopefully, I'll be able to get to 40 by the time I turn 40, 50 by 50, and so on. Kind of just a little bit of background about me. I am from San Francisco, California, and both of my parents also are huge travelers, especially my dad. My dad is the one that gave me this idea. He turned 60 this past year, and he's hit 60 countries by the time he turned 60. And he's just always loved traveling so much that he took a job where he was required to be in Switzerland for half the year, and because of that, he was able to travel so much. And I'm really lucky because like since him taking that job, this also allowed me and my brother to come join him on a lot of these travels. And it's where I got started traveling very, very young. And ever since then, I've just always had travel bug. I love going new places and I love experiencing new cultures. My dad told me this quote that I will always remember, and it's, you can read 100 books about a place, but you will never really understand what the culture is like until you visit it. And I agree so much with that. And I think that traveling can impact you so much as an individual. So, like I mentioned earlier, I was able to travel to 20 countries by the time I was 20. And so today I thought I would go through a little bit of some of the countries or all the countries that I went to, and then also some that stood out, some stories about some places, countries that shocked me, countries that underwhelmed me. And this isn't an exact order of the times that I visited, but I was honestly just trying to write them down, and these are how they kind of came to mind. So, one, America, Mexico, Wales, England, Tanzania, Costa Rica, Italy, Switzerland, Norway, Germany, Ireland, Portugal, Sweden, Austria, Spain, Netherlands, Denmark, Scotland, France, Czech Republic, Poland, Dominican Republic, Singapore. So that is, if you lost count, it's 23. And just even looking at that list, it's crazy to me that I have been able to do that, and I'm still feel like I haven't seen so much, but in reality I know that that is such a privileged thing to say, that I've been to all of these places, and I thank my parents so much for that. But looking at this list, so many memories come to mind, just even seeing the name of the countries. For me, England really stands out. I spent 6 months studying abroad there, and in London specifically, and I fell in love with London. I would love to move there after college. I just love the way of life in London. I think it's it's a city that is modern yet holds so many like historic things, like the pub culture, the nightlife. It just kind of is like a perfect mix for me of modern and like old times. And I just have such a fun time whenever I'm in London. I cannot wait. I have a trip booked there this summer and I cannot wait to go back. And it's definitely one of my favorite places in the world. Another country that really stands out is Tanzania. I was really lucky. I got selected to go on a trip there my sophomore year of high school. My high school did a really cool thing where every year they would pick a place to go, and they would select like 3 or 4 kids from each grade. And it wasn't based on like grades, it wasn't based on extracurriculars. It was literally a group of staff that sat down and decided who would make the most of this trip, who would benefit from this trip. So it was people from really all different kinds of backgrounds. Like there were like the star athletes, there were the really smart people, there were people on ASB, there were people that weren't super involved. Like it was literally everyone. And so, and you don't always like get to go. And I was just chosen to go my sophomore year, and it was an opportunity that I just couldn't say no to. So I went to Tanzania and loved it. It was everything I thought it was would be, yet so different at the same time. And I met so many we stayed with a host family that were till this day like some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And it was the most amazing experience, and I wish everyone was able to do it. And I'm so glad that I was able to go on that trip. And I would love to get back to Africa at one point in my life. I'm hoping to visit either Morocco or Ghana or South Africa, maybe, but I would love to do that. Another one that I love is Switzerland, a place that I've spent a lot of time, as I mentioned earlier. It's my dad. My dad works for a pharmaceutical company called Roche, that is headquartered in Basel, Switzerland. So he's there a good amount of the time. So growing up, me, my brother, and my mom would go visit. And we honestly kind of made a home a little bit in Switzerland. We never permanently lived there, but it is a place that whenever I go, I feel very comfortable in. And it is truly one of the most beautiful places, breathtaking views everywhere you look. The people are great. It's a place that is very different than home, yet every time I go, I feel very comfortable, and a place that I have many memories. And I do think I will definitely be going back there soon. Along with Switzerland, a place that I love a lot is Italy. Italy. I said that a little bit wrong. My mom is was born in Italy. She's from Lucca, Italy, and just like the movie, if you've ever seen it, and it's beautiful and a place that is probably the most family oriented place I've ever been. Everyone there is treated as their own. The food is amazing. The people, like I said, most generous people I've ever met. And it's a place that we always try to hit whenever my family and I go to Europe. No matter what the destination is we're doing, we always do try to go to Lucca as well. And it's such a great place and somewhere that I encourage everyone to go to. Okay, we are now joined with my friend Georgia, who was also my roommate during study abroad. So she's traveled a ton too. So I'm interested to hear her perspective on these things. So my first question for you, Georgia, is what was your favorite country you traveled to when you were studying abroad?
This one's kind of hard to do because I don't even feel like I have one. I loved all the places we went to, but I would say having London as a home base was
Yeah.
the best part. Especially whenever we were 3 a.m. at the airport, Jen. The only thing I wanted to do was like be home, quotation marks, London flat.
No, I think London was like a hundred. I tell everyone that I think it was 100% the best base that we could have picked.
Yeah. So I guess like I would say the UK and honestly the United Kingdom itself too because I really did love Scotland as well.
Yeah,
Edinburgh was so
we really
nice.
liked Edinburgh. That was so much fun. Besides London, where was your favorite place that you traveled, and where would you have like been like, okay, like I could have seen myself like studying abroad here for a while?
Hmm. Um the only thing about study abroad that was difficult was that we were only in places for around 3 2-ish days. So I feel like it
Yeah,
was hard to kind of get a grasp. But I would definitely say Amsterdam out of all the
yeah, I
places. So
loved
maybe like the
Amsterdam.
Netherlands. I feel like I just really liked how like there was canals and there was a lot of history to it, especially our Anne Frank walking tour. I told Jenna that I would book the Anne Frank house tour for us, and I ended up booking a hour and a half to. I think she made it longer, didn't she? Say
It
she
was like 2.5 hours. I
a
would say it was 2.5 hours.
a 2.5 hour walking tour about Anne Frank's life. We didn't even go into the house. So
No, like it was, but honestly, it was funny, and like it was actually was a cool
Yeah, and well,
experience. We
and
saw
that
a lot of the city, I think, way more than we would have seen, which I thought was cool.
which made me say that like I think out of all the other places I would have wanted to study there. But I mean London's top tier.
I agree. So, besides just talking about the places I've been to and memories that come from each of these places, which I could do for hours, I thought I would also talk a little bit about the importance of traveling and the role that I think it's played on my life and the role that it could potentially play on yours. I found this article from National Geographic called Why Travel Should Be Considered a Human Essential. And to sum it up, it basically goes in saying that humans are meant to travel, they're meant to experience new things. And since the pandemic, only about one third of Americans have traveled out of the country due like for leisure, like not just a business trip or something. And the article explains the benefits of traveling for mental health, for productiveness, for life skills. And after reading it, I couldn't agree more with what the author is trying to say. Traveling is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to grow as a person. I think back, even when I was young, because like I mentioned earlier, I started traveling internationally at a very young age with my family. And there were a few times where my mom and my dad would be in Switzerland before my brother and I, and we would fly internationally at the age of 9 and 7 by ourselves. And it just seemed normal to me. And I loved it. And we had the flight attendant help us or whatever, but as the older we got, the more independent we were. And I just always felt confident traveling. And this seemed like a second nature to me. It didn't seem like anything crazy. And then growing up, I would be in the airport just like on the beat of my own drum. And I remember I was with my friend's parents and we were going to Mexico. I was going with her family. And she was like, "You seem like very like you know what you're like." I knew where to go, like all of this stuff. And I realized I'm like wow, like that's because I've been traveling at such a young age and I feel very independent. I also noticed when I was studying abroad, I was with some people that hadn't been abroad before, and unfortunately, a lot of these people lost their passports, got phones stolen, and I never had any of those issues because I think I knew my dad at a very young age helped my brother and I. When you're walking on the street in cities, you do not leave your phone out. You put it either in your inside pocket or you hold it directly onto you, like not out. Don't act like you're on it. Like, do not make yourself a target. And we always just, my brother and I always just were told what to do and we listened. And it helped so much when I was abroad. I never had to worry about any of that stuff because I knew what to do. And the article also talks about meeting people from different cultures, which I think is personally the biggest part of growth and most important thing that I've gotten out of studying abroad, or not just even studying abroad, traveling abroad. Since I was 7 years old, I've met people from so many different places. I can say that I have friends in so many different countries, which is insane. And when you get close to these people, you realize their habits they have and you learn from that. For example, in Italy, where my mom is from, we go back there and I've learned the act of generosity so much from them. I've learned the act or the idea of family a lot more in Italy than I feel like I have in America. And it's so interesting. When I was in Tanzania, Africa, I learned the idea of collaboration. Everything they did there was together. Your neighbors, everyone was together at all times. And I thought that was so intriguing and something that I wish we had a little bit more of too. I learned in Switzerland, they're not the biggest talkers, but once you break down their walls a little bit, they are the nicest people you'll ever meet. And I could go on. I could say that about every single place I've been to that I've learned something and I take it back with me in my daily life. And I think that is such a special opportunity that I've had and something that I do not take for granted at all.